Hey there. Welcome to Unacceptable Ideas. My name is Jake Nelson. I have no idea what unacceptable ideas is supposed to be. Little backstory. Like many of you, I'm a little bit frustrated with the world. Politics, corporate greed, all the things. I needed a healthy way to vent, to express things that were going on in my head that needed to get out. It's been incredibly helpful. I have been in the business world for a very long time, and I feel like I am still kind of making it to fake it. I want something more out of life. Something more for me is knowledge and being around like-minded people, creating my own world. So I guess that's what Unacceptable Ideas is. It's my own little world that will become whatever it becomes. At the end of the day, Unacceptable Ideas is an expression from my heart, hopefully to yours, from my guests to you, and hopefully from you to me. If you're struggling, if you're frustrated like I am, hang tight. There's hope. There's a lot of hope. There's a long arc of history. While this is scary where we're at, it's really nothing new. Maybe AI. But we've been through major changes before. The Industrial Revolution, agricultural revolution, on and on. The aim right now is just to leverage some of my relationships that I've built over the years in business with clients who I find to be amazing people, tell their story. Most of them have pursued and created their own unacceptable ideas. In this episode, I speak with Kevin B. Williams, founder and CEO of Hydrobliss. Hydrobliss is primary water infused with molecular hydrogen. So health benefits on both sides. Primary water has never seen the light of day. It has never been in the atmospheric water cycle. It's nutrient rich. Kevin then infuses molecular hydrogen in the canning process. It may impact up to 200 different diseases. It is definitely an anti-inflammatory, it's an energy source. I am a customer. It helps me recover. I believe in it. And I think Kevin is just a fascinating human being. Please enjoy episode 1, the pilot of Unacceptable Ideas. Truly, thank you for watching this. You have no idea what every view means to me. And I hope that one day we'll be in a better place. Thank you again. Enjoy. How are you doing, man?
Another day in paradise.
Looking sharp.
Had to get rid of the beard.
Yeah.
The Grizzly Adams effect.
Looks good, man. I'm a little nervous, to be totally honest.
This is the first time I've ever done anything like
It's the cool thing to do these days. Personally and with your business, how are things going at the end of 2024?
There's so many things going on in the world right now. So I just been doing some meditating and then I got to leave the rest.
Yeah. All right. So for those who don't know you, you are the founder and CEO of Hydrobliss.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So Hydrobliss is primary water infused with molecular hydrogen, right?
You know, I just started out bringing this water to people that were chronically ill. And I wanted it for myself first and foremost, but I started sharing it with people that I knew that were around me that were really ill.
How long ago is that?
That's been like 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
Some time. So what was happening around that period in your life? You discovered, was it primary water first or was it the molecular hydrogen?
I was able to drink some of the water and I noticed something right away. I grew up on a farm outside of the city and there hadn't been any industrial pollution or anything around. I was about 6 years old and I was in Portland with my uncle and aunt and we were by the Mount Tabor reservoir I'm like, what's that for? And they go, oh, that's where Portland gets its drinking water. Oh. And I'm going, wow, that's just exposed. There's birds flying over and poop falling. And I'm going, man, is that really? And that night I had a nightmare about how something went wrong with the water system because it was just open and anybody could do anything with it. This is a really young age. I've always been into athletics and an elite athlete, and was always looking for different practices to become a better ski racer.
Spent a lot of time in the outdoors as a kid. That led to seeing the water source for Portland. Moved into kind of your skiing career, athletics, and you were looking for an edge, and started focusing on the foundation of it all.
It's a culmination of just life experiences like so many people go through. We all have our journey. We all have a story. And this is basically the first time I've ever told my story.
Like you were more focused on kind of the primary water aspect because your product is primary water infused with molecular hydrogen. So it sounds like maybe you were first focused on water quality, spring water, primary water. Is that accurate?
It was artesian spring water, but I'd never heard of primary water before. I was doing a lot of research on the internet and I came across the Primary Water Institute. It's a nonprofit organization. I reached out to a guy and got a hold of him, Paul Power, the late Paul Power. He's the famous Hungarian water wizard, and his legend carries on. He worked with a lot of real famous hydrologists and geologists around the world, and they had some ideas and things that maybe weren't so acceptable.
Yeah.
But they insisted on it, and they've come through, and there's more evidence than ever about the case for primary water. Anyway, Paul was the most generous, kindest man. His stories was totally incredible, but he actually became my mentor, and he was my mentor for about 8 or 9 years. I looked up to him for a lot of answers, and he'd call me up and I go, what's this guy calling me for? I'm just like,
from Hungary.
He escaped the war in Hungary. He's an amazing guy too. He was responsible for drilling the primary water wells for LA, California, that are still there today.
That all came out of the Sierras. They've actually got a primary water source, huh?
There's a lot of primary water all up and down the Sierras, the solid granite. You drill right into that stuff that has more water. No, everybody thinks that water runs down and goes into ponds and lakes and dams and stuff, and it's just not like that.
Can we talk a little bit about the cycle, the water cycle?
Yeah.
So let's say, I don't know where you want to start, if it's starting with rain and then we go from there, or maybe even I've seen you talk about this concept of toilet to tap or turd to tap. If you want, we could start with the flush of the toilet, or we could start with rain.
Yeah, there's basically 2 water cycles, and the one that they teach you about in school is called the atmospheric cycle. Yeah. And that's where it evaporates and forms clouds and rains down and is filtered through the earth and goes and recharges aquifers and lakes and dams and rivers and streams. And so that's your surface water. And that would include the ocean as well. But the thing that they don't talk about, and this is becoming more mainstream now, and there's all kind of evidence, but then there's the primary water cycle where you have deep earth generated water. There's more water inside the earth than all the water that's on the surface. Paul gave me a question one day. He goes, just think about it. If this was all the water that we only had on the planet, and however old the planet is, the water would have been used up. Our planet Earth would look like Mars right now if the Earth didn't generate its own water. So there's giant lakes and oceans inside the Earth, and there's a lot of evidence that supports that. And it's like, where is this water coming from? It's magmatic water, deep Earth generated. One way the Earth makes water is from the magma, that's deep molten core down deep. It creates hydrogen gas, and hydrogen gas is forced up through cracks and fissures and stuff that eventually comes in contact with an oxygen molecule to form a brand new water molecule.
Through pressure or heat or both?
All of the above. Yeah, pressure, heat, and just it has to come in contact with oxygen. There's underground caverns and lakes and stuff underneath the Earth's surface that we wouldn't really typically think about because it's out of sight, out of mind. But eventually, in certain areas where there's tectonic plates, most of the primary water that's generated deep in the earth comes out on the bottom of the ocean floor. And it comes out as clean, fresh, brand new water, but it mixes and commingles with the ocean water, the salinity of the ocean water, but it does charge the ocean. And then on surface of land, it usually comes up on giant fractures or fissures or fault lines where there's plates meet because there's a way for it because it's expanding under pressure.
So is this the vents that I've seen? Sorry to interrupt, but it's the vents at the bottom of the ocean.
It can come out in any shape or form, but the Japanese have known this for a long time, and they actually have located these primary water vents on the bottom of the ocean floor, and they tap them like an offshore oil rig, and they'll drill it down in there and case and keep that primary water separate from the ocean water and pump that water up to the top, and they fill up these giant bladder bags, like big bags, million-gallon bags, rubber bags that they just fill full of water, and then they tugboat them across the ocean back to the harbor and unload it. And
for like municipal water, or is this like private?
It's unattainium for the average person, I think.
Are there pockets of hydrogen inside of the earth just sitting there, or is the earth actually generating hydrogen molecules, through pressure and heat?
There's definitely giant reserves of hydrogen, this pure hydrogen gas, just like they would find natural gas or any other kind of mineral substance. There's mountains around the world that actually just spew hydrogen gas right out of the tunnels, right out of the caves at the side of the mountains.
So is it like does the earth replenish those pockets or actually create hydrogen, or is it like a non-renewable resource that is left over from the creation of the plant?
Yeah, my belief is that it's constantly being created, and it's an abundant. Hydrogen is the number one element on the periodic table. It's the smallest, lightest, most abundant molecule in the entire universe. It's odorless, tasteless, and it's highly flammable. A lot more energy density than, your petrol fuels, your diesel, your gasoline, propane. Ever since the Hindenburg, I think it was when the Rockefellers got in charge, and all of a sudden hydrogen just got put away because there was a lot of research on it clear back into the late 1700s, where they were using it to locate bullets and gut shot wound soldiers. And there's been a lot of research that was done on hydrogen, and then it just went off the map and disappeared, and nobody really even paid attention to it. But it is the most abundant element, and it's in vast quantities inside the earth. That's like what you're seeing now with the hydrogen economy around the world, especially in Germany and Dubai and other places, Japan. They're in another easy way. One of the ways that were done forever is methane steam refracking. They get a lot of hydrogen from the production of crude oil. That's one way, but they call that gray hydrogen. We've got green, blue, yellow, red, black. We got all these different levels of hydrogen, and it depends on how it's been made and manufactured and stored. But the most common way is through electrolysis, where they actually use an anode and a cathode and an electrical current to liberate the two hydrogen molecules off the oxygen molecule. That's going to probably be one of the predominant ways moving forward that the hydrogen economy will start to, flourish here.
So is it, you said there's black hydrogen, blue hydrogen, etc. Are they all the same size molecule? And is the size of the hydrogen molecule what makes it special, that it's more bioavailable?
Yeah, as far as from a health standard, yeah, you want pure hydrogen, clean hydrogen, molecular hydrogen. It's two hydrogen molecules that are covalently bonded, so they have an attraction. And that's what we're primarily focused on in health and wellness for our bodies. It's the way I look at it is it's a master regulator molecule. It regulates homeostasis. It regulates everything. It regulates blood sugar, it regulates hydration, it regulates it regulates the NRF2 pathway. How many functions are in the body? It regulates all of them. It's the master regulator.
So this is a good segue. You mentioned Japan, and when we've talked previously, I think the most fascinating thing that you told me was how Japan has been using hydrogen in the medical field, and in some cases, or maybe many cases, requiring it.
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe at the end why we aren't doing the same in the U.S.?
it wasn't. It was. There's these famous healing water sources around the world, and one of them happens to be Lourdes in London, and people pilgrimage there all from all around the world to drink this water and receive the blessings from this cave. And that's where they're drinking it right off the spring, because as soon as the water comes up, if you take it home in a jug, by tomorrow morning all your hydrogen's going to be gone. Japanese are really responsible for drilling down and figuring out exactly what's going on. They're going, hey, look, these people are claiming that they're getting spontaneous remissions and miracle healings and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to Lourdes in London. They set up and they thought maybe it's going to be the minerals or some kind of content in the water. But lo and behold, the actual main reason that people are getting it is there's extra free molecular hydrogen. There's H2O, the water, and then it has extra gas in the water, because the gas can be in the water. There can be two hydrogen molecules, molecular hydrogen, inside of the matrix of water. And so it's hydrogen rich is what they call it. So it was in 2007 when Dr. Oda from Japan, their research crew went there and they did all their testing and stuff, and they came back and they go, wow, okay. And then they've tested water. There's like 7 different famous healing waters around the world. And this is where I started going down the rabbit hole and learning about hydrogen and how this is interesting, and working with Dr. Jerry Pollack from the University of Washington, and ultimately Tyler LeBaron from the Molecular Hydrogen Foundation. I sent him some water quality analysis in an email, and he had called me back and said, where's the nearest airport? And he was on an airplane the next day out here, because we're in a very remote location. Nobody knows about it. It's like a hidden gem. But anyway, the Japanese are fully responsible for this latest energy behind hydrogen and health and overall well-being. The 3 of the biggest hospitals in Japan, you go to the emergency room, if you're still conscious, they will not admit you unless you drink hydrogen water first. Some of these other countries are very advanced compared to us. I don't know why we're so behind the ball here in the States, but even in Ecuador, their government knows the importance of having extra molecular hydrogen in their national beverages. They're actually infusing hydrogen into their national beverages down there, because they know that it will save them money on healthcare and insurance in the future. It'll also produce a more productive citizenry and just sharper, brighter overall people. Wow. And so they're switched on. They get it. It's either people really generously accept it and want to learn more about it and why it works and how it works, or they just want to demonize it like it's the Hindenburg. Oh, that's so dangerous. Nobody says. The Navy's been using, our own U.S. Navy's been using hydrogen gas for deep sea diving since like the 40s. When they bring them up in the deep sea divers and they go way down there, and then if you come up too fast, you get the bends. It'd take them like a couple of days to come back up to decompress. When they administer hydrogen gas, like 98% hydrogen gas, when they're coming up, they can bring them right up. So the Navy's been using hydrogen hyperbaric chambers. There's a lot of interesting material on hydrogen that's not readily available.
Yeah. So I'm curious, for medical applications, is that primarily to reduce inflammation before a potential surgery? Or if you've experienced trauma, they don't want you to eat anything. Is it similar to that? And
Yeah.
it's a solid foundation for whatever is to come next, or what's
Yeah. They're using it even in medical procedures and surgeries and stuff, where they actually blow hydrogen gas on the incisions, like in open heart surgeries and stuff, when they're doing heart transplants. And the patients, well, because the hydrogen it's anti-inflammatory. It's like it reduces inflammation. Anytime that you have like a bump, bruise, cut, scrape, or traumatic brain injury, the hydrogen is anti-inflammatory. It reduces the reactive oxygen species free radical. And there's 3 different kinds of free radicals. There's the cytotoxic free radical. The worst, there's 2 really bad ones. And then there's the good free radicals that we actually need, cell signaling free radicals. There's a bond between molecular and hydrogen where the hydrogen doesn't bond to the good free radicals because the charge is not strong enough to break the covalent bond of the molecular hydrogen. But in the case of ROS, reactive oxygen species, or cytotoxic free radicals, that bond is great enough that the hydrogen gas donates one of its molecules to that free radical and turns it into water. You got a campfire going and you take the garden hose. The campfire's the inflammation and the burning and the agitation and from an injury or something. And then you spray water on that campfire and it just goes and puts it out. It's just poof. And that's how hydrogen works in the body.
I'm in Montana. It's cold right now. Let's relate it to starting a vehicle on a cold morning. Like, you can put heat into the gas tank the day before or even the day of when you go out. It's super cold and start your vehicle. That product heat, like a fuel supplement that helps it start. But then you could also jog the engine into action, like spraying, I don't know.
Engine starter. Yeah.
Starting fluid. Yeah. All right, it's been a while since I've been mentioning on anything, but yeah, starter fluid. So you can either use like heat in the gas tank as to get ahead of it, or you can use it like in an acute situation, like starter fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It just happens to be that drinking molecular hydrogen in water is the most easiest, convenient way to do it.
Yeah.
There's hydrogen inhalation. You can take hydrogen soaks, but the easiest, simplest, most effective, best way is just to get it in water. Like, it's a lifestyle thing. You take vitamin C one day, you get the benefits. The next day you don't take it, you don't get the benefits. But if you do drink hydrogen water over a few days, the effects are lasting. They can last like up to 4 days afterwards. But as soon as you drink it, it has a cycle. Like, it's about an hour-long cycle. So as soon as you drink it, it just immediately starts quenching free radicals wherever it's coming in. The hydrogen can move throughout the whole entire body. It can cross the blood-brain barrier. Breathing it into your lungs, drinking it is one of the best delivery methods. But in the first 15 minutes, the hydrogen is pretty much used up. It's gone through. It'll go to literally every organ throughout your whole entire body. And then the next 45 minutes, it tapers off. So it's got like about an hour-long cycle. And so sometimes I pulse myself. You pulse yourself. You get a bunch of hydrogen water, and then an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, you drink another one. Some good benefits doing that. Actually, if you drink 3 or 4 of these things in about, like, just say you drink 3 of them in an hour, man, you'll if you want to do that and experiment, because hydrogen's 100% safe. If we have a good, healthy intestinal tract, then hydrogen stimulates ghrelin production. It's been shown effective in Crohn's disease. our bodies have been known to be able to produce up to 11 liters of molecular hydrogen in our intestines. And so
fiber.
yeah, it's really fiber dependent. Obviously, your diet, certain foods. Our good buddy has a new cookbook, a hydrogen cookbook. It suggests all the foods that help produce your own naturally occurring hydrogen in your intestines. What I see happening is with this standard American diet, the unacceptable idea of a diet. That we're not getting enough fiber.
And it's an elusive thing, right? Because the molecule is so small.
Smallest molecule in the universe.
Can we talk a little bit about how you preserve the hydrogen? Delivery is extremely important from what I understand.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about how the hydrogen gets into the primary water of hydrobliss, and then how you essentially keep it there? And then maybe we can talk about the sort of the protocol, which you alluded to, after you crack the can, right? Because you send me a case, I actually subscribe.
Yeah.
You have a subscription on your website, so I'm all out currently, but every time I crack the can, I want to like rush to chug it.
Yeah.
So that I'm getting the most hydrogen, unless I'm showing a friend that you can actually light it on fire after you crack the can open. But talk a little bit about how you preserve the integrity of the percentage of hydrogen in your primary water.
Obviously, when we capture it, it starts losing some of the hydrogen. If you ever see hydrogen products that are in glass or plastic, you know that it's bogus, because hydrogen is so small that it can go right through glass and plastic. And so you're not going to have a shelf life on there. We learned long from the Japanese that they were using an aluminum container. For some reason, aluminum holds the hydrogen. The can manufacturers have gotten a lot better about some of their liners. They used to have the BPA liner. We went to great resource length to make sure that we've got certified BPA-free cans. The water has never seen the light of day, but it still will lose the small amount of hydrogen. We'll lose some of it in the process. So that's why we worked on building a way to infuse more hydrogen gas into the water right before it seamed up. I think it was 2014 when I canned my first hydrogen water at this place called the Crowler Guys. They can beer. They can it up for you right on the site. And I saw that and I go, hey, I talked to the owner and he said, hey, if I come in at 5 a.m, right when you're opening up, and I buy 200 cans from you in lids, and I bring my water in here and I can fill the cans and seam them. And he said, sure. And the guy was totally cool. He let me do it. And consequently, I saved several of the cans over the next 5 years. And I test a couple cans after a year and 2 years, and we had less than 10% loss in hydrogen gas.
Yeah.
That was a way that you could get a shelf-stable product ready to go. It's like medical water. It's like first aid. Every first aid kit that's ever manufactured and sold in the store should have a can of hydrogen water. Anything's starting to go sideways, man, just start drinking a can of this. Take a step back and relax, and it'll work itself out.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. So to wrap this up, at least this portion, about maintaining the integrity of hydrogen in the water, I've seen a lot of hydrogen generating water bottles and devices on Amazon. I see it all over Instagram. After meeting you, that stuff started showing up in my feed, and I really was questioning it. Not only the device that creates hydrogen, whatever that is, and maybe you can talk about what they're using, but more importantly, like the container itself being glass or plastic, huge screw top where hydrogen can easily leak out.
Those devices in theory are actually really good. With any industry, there's going to be a lot of, especially in the beginning. What's happening now is a lot of the cheaper ones are just put together and they've got some serious problems. Literally, some of them, everybody goes, oh, look, the blue light comes on and you see a bunch of these little bubbles floating up in there and you're going, oh, look, it's hydrogen. We're getting hydrogen. Guess what? some of those machines are not even making hydrogen. That's like chlorine gas. So they're like sucking down this chlorine gas, thinking that they're getting hydrogen, which is really sad.
So
And-
a lot of these products are just somebody,
Yeah.
they're made in China or offshore, and then somebody in the US gets hot on hydrogen, wants to get into the business. So they go on Alibaba and they pick from one of 300 different people making these cheap hydrogen generating water bottles, slap a logo on it, and then start selling it to you on Instagram, right? Or
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And there are water bottles out there that are approved and certified and tested that are $225 a bottle.
Yeah.
You're not really storing it. So you don't have to worry about having it in aluminum, something that's because you're going to usually generate the water, make the hydrogen, and then drink it straight away. You're not looking at a shelf life thing. A lot of them are out there making claims that they're making 5 parts per million of molecular hydrogen when they literally make 1 or 1.2.
Mhm.
And it's hype there. There's easy ways to test it. There's anode and cathode types. There's the proton exchange membrane method, and they all produce a certain amount of hydrogen. And it's going to be based on your actual source water. If you're using like distilled water, it's not going to make very much hydrogen because it actually, those processes need certain minerals and stuff in the water to actually produce the hydrogen gas. The other problem is, so depending on your source water, even with say some of these other ionizers, I don't want to mention any other names here, they scale up. Okay, so let's say that a good machine starts making 1.5 or 2 parts per million. It may only do that for the first 10 gallons of water. So the curve, it drops off rapidly. And if you're not servicing your machine and sending it in and having the electrodes and the plates cleaned and descaled, decalcified, you can do it yourself, but it's a big chore.
Right.
And you have to be like a mad scientist to do it yourself. And you can soak your plates and tear the whole thing apart and soak your plates in vinegar, water, and lemon juice and stuff, and descale the plates and stuff. And then you put it back together and then check it and measure your hydrogen. And you'll know, because at the end of the day, it's all about how much hydrogen you're getting.
Yeah. And you're doing that at your facility, cleaning the plates, descaling.
Third party validated. The only accredited laboratory in the United States at this time is H2 Sciences in Henderson, Nevada. They're ISHA approved. There's a worldwide international standard of testing hydrogen, so everybody has to calibrate their machines and everything in the same protocol to get the accurate results on how much hydrogen you're getting, how much. And right now, we have the highest level of hydrogen in a ready-to-drink product in primary water. So the primary water is actually the most important part. The hydrogen is actually the cherry on the top.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just science aside, actually drink hydrobliss. I was honestly a little bit skeptical at first, but when you do it proper, I like to keep mine extremely cold. Cold water is heavier, right?
Yeah.
And therefore it would retain more of the hydrogen when I crack the can. Is that correct or no?
Yeah, that's totally correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
After finishing a big task or even, working out in the yard, I need to recharge. I go to the fridge, I grab one of the cans, super cool, crack it, and then slam it. And within maybe a minute, it's really hard to describe the feeling. It's got a very earthy, there's not much taste at all, and it tastes good, but there's this, it's less of a taste and more of a sense. Like after a much needed spring rain and the sun comes out, like there's different ions in the air, and maybe there's a scientific connection, but I feel like I just walked outside after the first spring.
Yep. It is. It grounds your body. So our bodies, we have a lot of positive charge in our body, which we don't want. And that's why they do earthing and grounding and stuff. You can measure this thing called an oxidation reduction potential, or ORP. And you measure a positive millivolt charge. This water comes out of the ground with a negative millivolt charge right straight from the earth. It only has the information that the earth has to offer. It's the Schumann resonance, it's the minerals, it's a solvent that comes up. And you can go get into all that structuring and different stuff, which is beneficial, which can't hurt, being conscious about your water. But it does have a negative 600 ORP. It's discharging your body's electrical current the same way you would as if you weren't to go out and walk on the ground with your bare feet.
Gotcha. So tell me if this is accurate or not, but if it's got a positive warp, that means that it's less able to absorb the negative ions in your body. Primary water being negative is like a dry sponge. If it's positive ORP, it's like throwing a wet sponge into water. It's not going to do much.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Hydrogen aside, drinking water with a negative ORP is far more life affirming than drinking water that has a positive electrical charge. It just helps the absorption and everything. And then once again, the hydrogen's the icing on the cake because it regulates all these different pathways. It regulates the aquaporin channels in the cell itself. The biggest problem in the world is dehydration. We're born in water. And by the time we get out, we're already becoming slightly dehydrated. You can go to bed like 1 ounce of water, not hydrated. And chronic dehydration leads to inflammation, and chronic inflammation leads to dis-ease. And, like one of my famous books, Tyler's too, is Dr. Batman Gillage. Now, you're not sick, you're thirsty. And then you can look at Dr. Emoto's stuff about consciousness and water. Just in India, people, they have a whole different look about how they handle their water, how they treat their water. The water's, it's sacred. And that whole thing about praying over your water, or just stopping for 2 seconds before you open it, drink some water, and just being thankful for that water and sending that water some good energy. Woo lane all day.
You can see it, right? Under a microscope. You can see.
Yeah.
Do they freeze it, or after it's been blessed versus after it's been in a negative environment?
Yeah.
And the structure of the crystals is different.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all has to do with frequency and energy, and we take all that into consideration. We've seen some pretty miraculous stuff, and I know I've seen some amazing results with polluted water being healed through prayer and using argonite. And they say you can store more information on a single drop of water than the biggest supercomputer on the planet.
I recently installed just like a basic Culligan system, RO with a softener and remineralization.
Yep.
I don't know how effective that is. I'm sure you have some thoughts on it, but we did that because our water supply here tested crazy high for what it was specifically, but basically forever chemicals. That's why we got the Culligan system installed. Can we talk a little bit about most people in the United States? I know it varies by region and by city, but generally speaking, what are they drinking and what are the potential negative effects? It makes sense that there would be tons of contaminants in it, antidepressants, so on and so forth. Can you tell us how bad our city water potentially is?
It's worse than we want to know. I wrote several emails to different municipalities about the fluoridation in the water, university town where people are trying to get smarter, higher education, and this falls on deaf ears. I sent several published papers and stuff just on the fluoride thing. Actually make some good filters for fluoride removal. People are being more conscious about their water supply, and at a minimum, you can filter chlorine and chloramine. They used to use a lot of chlorine to sanitize the water to keep from legionnaires and cryptosporidia and all these different kinds of waterborne bacteria.
Yeah, where did we get so much chlorine from?
You know what? The chlorine's not so bad.
No?
You can fill up a pitcher of water from your tap, straight out of the tap that's been chlorinated, and you just let it sit out on the counter for a few hours, and that chlorine dissipates. The problem is they switched over to this new disinfectant product. It's a byproduct of chlorine called chloramine. So if you do look up your municipal water supply system, and find out if they're using chlorine or chloramine. Chloramine was designed to not come out of the water. So now it stays in the water, it disinfects, but it's also chlorine and chloramine are just wreak havoc on your GI tract.
Yeah.
It's the whole digestive system. It's no good. Bathing in it, it's the same way. Our skin's the biggest organ of the body, and we're going to absorb. You'd be surprised. You think the water hits your skin and runs off.
The chlorine that was developed as a chemical weapon initially and then repurposed, or was that chloramine, or am I completely off base?
I don't know. I think it might have been chlorine. I could tell you for a fact. I sucked in a bunch of chlorine gas by accident one time using chlorine tablets in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
It had been sitting out in the sun and there was a bunch of water in there and I was trying to get the last little granulars out of there. And I popped the top and it had pressure and I took a big inhalation and just straight chlorine gas almost killed me. My lungs burned, my eyes. I was coughing blood and it's like.
I'll have to look this up again, but I swear it was originally developed for military use and the producer of it needed a way to continue selling it after the war ended.
There's an unacceptable idea for sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe it is unacceptable. I'll have to fact check that and edit it out.
The runoff, the biosludge, the sewage treatment plants, the way they're getting rid of this stuff, they're dumping it on the farmers' fields. There's heavy metals and stuff. You don't even want to really know how bad it is. It's worse. Our environments across the board, some worse than others, but our environments are way more toxic than we care to even think about.
Do you think that's the toxicity is increased in, say, we're obviously living in interesting times the last 10, 20 years, but do you think it's increased significantly in any way in the last quarter century?
Especially with the geoengineering and stuff, the aluminums and bariums and different strontium and stuff that's landing on everything. It's landing on our trees. It's landing on our lakes and ponds and tributaries. And that's why you're seeing a lot more algae blooms and stuff because it's acidic. It's changing the pH of the ocean and the water, the surface water.
It's increasing or decreasing the pH. I would think acidity would prevent algae growth, but it actually promotes it.
Yeah, there's certain species of algae, the worst ones, that it promotes. That's why it can flourish and proliferate because there's been enough of this stuff now over the last 20 years to change the pH of stuff to lower the pH.
So the opposite of acidic is alkaline.
Right.
Essentially. So alkaline, good.
Yeah, anything over 7 compared to soda, a diet soda or anything else, we're talking like acidic, 4.5, 4.2 Coca-Cola. I dropped the name. Yes. No, you can measure. Anybody can do it. They don't care. That's why they use it to clean battery terminals and get rust off of chrome and
Wild.
It is wild. The one thing I would suggest for people that are running filter systems, even if it's a Brita or a pure on the end of your tap like filter, is the problem there is people aren't changing those filters. They need to be routinely inspected and changed out.
Let's say for the everyday person, what's the best thing they can do for, say, under $500 without having to put a ton of time into it and continually change the filter? Like what can somebody do for $500 if that's even possible to protect their water supply for the next 6 months?
A filter.
Just a filter. Like Brita, like you were saying, or?
Yeah, anything's better than nothing. Anything's better than nothing. Even a sediment filter would be better than nothing. Activated charcoal is really good because it's going to remove chlorine. Most of your water filters that's basically what they are. But there's a lot of contaminants in our water. So those filters they fill up. They only have enough surface area to take on so much stuff. And then after they're filled up, you're just getting this, you're not getting any more filtration.
Yeah. I think we have to change out our system every 6 months or so.
Yeah, that would probably be good. Usually, if you read on there, they'll tell you how many gallons it's rated at.
Yeah.
We all take water for granted, especially in the United States. It's like water's everywhere. Guess what? It's worse than you can imagine. And now with the forever chemicals and the Gen X chemicals, plus the EPA just made a ruling that they're finally trying to do something about this. It's gotten worse, and it's in the water table and in aquifers, and industrial pollution is just atrocious, and nobody wants to talk about it. And the EPA is by 2026 or 2027, these laws will be mandated because they've got lobbyists and stuff that are like, hey, look, there's no way we can meet those minimum reporting limits.
Plays right into
Yeah.
Water is foundational. It affects all of us.
Yeah.
And we know about the sick care system and how that operates, but it seems like carcinogenic water, or water that is unhealthy, is the first step in driving people to the hospital. And then once they're there,
The ultimate delivery system. Just
it's
think
the
about
ultimate business, right?
I firmly believe that the big corporations have intentionally polluted the water and evaded all fees and fines and snuck around and just done backdoor deals to get rid of toxic waste. And it's just like some of these fracking sites. Hey, get rid of this stuff. Let's go shoot this stuff down. And one of these fracking holes, where do you think it's going to go? It's going to go right into the water table and the aquifers and come up later. Anyway, they are literally getting away with murder. And then what they do is they come back and they go, okay, that's the problem, reaction, solution, Halian dialectic. They're going to they fund the problem. They make money off the solution that they're trying to provide for you, which is like some nonstick Teflon pans. And then the byproduct goes out, and then they go, hey, look, we can make money off this too. We can just dump this stuff everywhere. And everybody will get it. And then, it comes out. By then we have the technology to filter it out. But right now they're scrambling. There's several companies trying to figure out how to get rid of them. They're really pesky chemicals. They're not easily and readily to get rid of.
Totally unacceptable.
Completely. It is. We can do better than that. If you can't do anything better than that, then that would lead me to believe that it's intentional by design. So they make money. It's just like they make money funding both sides of the war. So they make money in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. And if they don't have the perfect trifecta of capitalization and they don't benefit from all 3 points, then they don't even do it. So it's the trifecta method.
At the government level, to turn this maybe a little more positive, you had mentioned that there are some solutions in the works. There's research being done, obviously. Who's leading this at the national level, if anybody, or maybe it's more local? Like, what potentially is the solution?
Yeah, the EPA, so what they've done is they've adjusted. We know that any amount of forever chemicals, PFASs, PFOSs, Gen X chemicals. And when I first started looking into this and reading the reports, I thought it was like 2,500. I read it. I go, it's 25,000. I left a zero off of there. So anyway, first of all, they claim that even the smallest amount of these things are carcinogenic. They have to have minimum reporting limits. So they started out pretty low, and then they go, a lot of these big Fortune 500 companies aren't going to be able to meet that requirement. So they had to raise the limit. So they raised the limit, and these laws are supposed to come in effect the next couple of years. And so in the meantime, we got no solution, so to speak. It's not widespread or popular. They've raised the limits. So what is it? It's micro murder still. We're on our own. And we went ahead and tested for forever chemicals, microplastics, Gen X, all 25,000 chemicals. And the area that we're in, I'd probably want to live closer to creature comforts, but we're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no industrial pollution. There's no agricultural runoff or pesticides or anything going on. We're not in any windward patterns for big industry or pollution other than
You're in the high desert, right?
Yeah.
Oregon.
The history here is like that there have been over 10,000 Native Americans, and this was a wintering ground for them. And I think that's why they call it Summer Lake, kind of a little banana belt surrounded by mountains where they could go down to lower elevations. And we got a lot of geothermal water out here. When it's 20 below zero and they're all freezing their butt off, they can just go sit in 89, 90-degree water all day, just smoke the peace pipe and just relax about it.
It sounds like we're all at risk, especially now with the increase in forever chemicals in the environment and the raising of the limits. And they seem to be working on things, but we're all at risk. One of the ideas behind unacceptable ideas is that a lot of this relates to governance and the government. And we just went through an election where there's a lot of division. But this is a foundational issue. And the only way to really solve it is if we come together and demand it. So not to get too deep into politics, but how do you see that maybe the next administration, whatever you think of them, might be able to help the situation by maybe moving around the current system? Is Kennedy going to be a good thing for our water supply and therefore for us?
I think so. There's always room for improvement, but they should. Water is key to all life. It kind of
not to steer you down that path, but
yeah. I'm not quite sure. They seem to be working on it. Everything they do is super expensive. They have made some demands on the EPA. Just have to see how they clean up some of this Department of Government Waste or whatever it's called. We got to quit buying these $10,000 hammers, all the fleecing of the taxpayers' money. But yeah, it should really go, because then that would lead you to believe that they don't really want you to get well. If they really did care about you, we'd have an A1 water system.
No, it's planned obsolescence. If anybody thinks it is not possible, your iPhone has planned obsolescence designed into it so that eventually it becomes obsolete or not good anymore and you have to spend more money.
Got to keep you coming back. Just the opposite of what a lot of us would think. It's like you build a better mousetrap, something that lasts. That used to be like that. That's why they started Levi's and stuff, because they wanted to help out the working man, get them a good quality product, and then everything eventually gets. A lot of these companies start out really good, have really good models and ethics, and then they get bought out or they sell out and they get taken over, and then whew, we all got to just stand up. You got to vote with your dollars for what you believe in, what you want. You got to support local small businesses that are doing ethical, acceptable things. Yep. And that's the whole reason I'm here. It's the whole reason I'm doing this. Was without a shadow of a doubt my calling to go down this path in this lifetime to try to help bring awareness and education around the benefits of molecular hydrogen, the primary water cycle, because these things are good news in a world full of really terrifying stuff. And I can't think of a better thing to talk about than something that's good news, like the health benefits of molecular hydrogen and the profound health benefits, the fact that there's over 200 human disease models that hydrogen is shown to alleviate. And then so the research keeps coming. It's solid and it's proof. It's not your fake science. It's not got that to deal with too. And but then primary water, it's available to everybody. It's available all around the world. You just got to know people. Like I'm in touch with some people through the Primary Water Institute. They're out there actively doing this stuff. Highly recycled wastewater, or AKA turd to tap. Yeah. There's that documentary on YouTube in New York City's municipal water system, how you can flush the toilet and it comes right back out your faucet within 45 minutes.
Best of luck to this new administration. We'll have to keep an eye on them. My intuition is that maybe they're not going to solve anything and probably end up in a scenario similar to Japan, where if you want good drinking water, you got to buy it from somebody who siphoned it off of one of those vents on the ocean floor. But really, I think we need to come together and not be looking to people in politics to solve this stuff for us. We need to rely on each other. I rely on you, a small businessman, to give me the information that I want about the water that I'm consuming. Everybody else should do the same, support small businesses. It's the best way to eliminate corporate influences from what you're consuming. I think companies like hydrobliss.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you, man, for enlightening me, and hopefully through this podcast, enlightening a bunch of other people. There's reason for hope.
There certainly is.
Hopefully we can have you back, talk about some other unacceptable ideas.
Absolutely.
We'll get through this whole thing together as long as we keep our eyes open and recognize what's going on. Right?
Yeah. Just try to help people. Some people don't want to do research or study, and that's okay too. We're not forcing anybody to do anything. You can vote with your dollars and ask. If you don't ask, you won't receive. So we've got to come together and demand better quality. We got to get rid of fluoride. There's other technologies that are coming available now that there is no excuse for anybody to have subpar water. And the good news is there's more water than people realize, and it's available to everybody. And it doesn't even cost that much for what the value is. The bang for the buck is better than anything else out there.
Yeah.
So,
well, if viewers or listeners want to actually feel what it's like to consume primary water, like we should all be doing all the time, please check out hydrobliss.com, Kevin's company. Hit that subscribe button on hydrobliss.com, right? Maybe try some different protocols that Kevin's mentioned here and see what it can do. See for yourself.
You deserve the best.
Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.